This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Hello, I'm Sister Brenda Shipp, National Superintendent of Sunday School of the Original Churches of God. Highlights of Sunday School Lesson. Lesson 2, September the 12th, 2021. David dances before the ark. Text, 2 Samuel, 6th chapter, 1 through 5, and 14 through 19 verses. Devotional reading, Ecclesiastes 3, 1 through 9. Celebrating with enthusiasm. Celebration can be diverse in form and include various actions. How do we celebrate great events in our lives? King David expressed his joy and celebration of God by leading God's people in music and dance. In the day's text, the Ark of the Covenant was to be kept in the Holy of Holies of the tabernacle. It symbolized the glorious throne of God. But for over 75 years, the ark had been absent from the divine sanctuary at Shiloh. The Philistines captured the ark when Eli was judge, and then returned it to the Jews because the Lord sent judgment on the Philistines. Why did David want the ark in Jerusalem? He wanted to honor the Lord and give him his rightful place as king of the nation. David did not seek the mind of the Lord, relocating the ark to Jerusalem. What pleases the king and the people may not please God, and what pleased God would not have his blessing. David's first attempt failed miserably because the Levites didn't carry the ark on their shoulders. Numbers 4 in the Old Testament, God had given specific directions on how the tabernacle was to be erected, dismantled, and transported, and the major pieces of furniture were to be carried on the shoulders of the Levites. Lessons were learned. God's work must be done in God's way if it is to have God's blessing. The leaders of Israel agreed to use the cart. When it looked like the ark would fall off the cart, Ezra took hold of it to steady it, and he was killed. The ark was not in Obed-Edom's house. 3 months. It was put in his house for 3 months. The second attempt is when David heard that the presence of the ark was bringing blessings to Obed-Edom's household. David wanted that blessing for himself and his people. So he sent the Levites to Obed-Edom's house to bring the ark to Jerusalem on their shoulders. David was determined to do God's work in God's way. The Levites paused after a few steps and offered a bull, a fatted calf. When no judgment fell on them, they knew God was pleased with what they were doing. The ark reached the tent in Jerusalem. the priests offered 14 more sacrifices. David danced and worshiped the Lord and dressed in his finest. But his wife later accused him of exposing himself. In 1 Chronicles 15:27, he says he was wearing a royal robe under his ephod. David's dance was personal. He did it before the Lord. When the ark was safely installed in the tent, David blessed the people. He gave them each some bread, flesh, and a cake of raisins. When the ark was safely placed, David blessed the people. It was a joyous day, and David's praise for God's grace was not to be diminished. Liberating lesson. Bringing the ark to Jerusalem was no easy task. It required planning, a tremendous amount of resources, and great effort. David was not deterred by what this endeavor would require. His commitment to Israel's spiritual health was such that he committed himself to bring the symbol of God's presence to Jerusalem despite the cost. Spiritual growth requires effort on our part. We may not need to assemble 30,000. No, we may not need to assemble that many people to take a dangerous journey, but we must be intentional about the things of God. We must actively swim against the pull of modern culture and its endless supply of empty pursuits to live the life that God intends. Application for activation. David was intentional about bringing the symbol of God's presence to Jerusalem. Likewise, we must be intentional about cultivating God's presence in our own lives. Do you have a plan for your spiritual growth? Do you have times devoted to prayer, study, and personal worship each week? Are there certain times of the year when you fast or spend an extended period of time alone with God? When moving the ark, David had the support of Israel. In addition to 30,000 warriors, a large company of Israelites went with him to retrieve the ark. They sang, danced, and offered sacrifices. The church exists as a community to encourage and equip. As a body, let us support one another as we pursue the things of God and create an atmosphere of sincere worship. God be merciful to us and bless us and cause his face to shine on us. Until next week, be blessed. I was glad when they said unto me, let us go into the house of the Lord.